CM Punk costs Drew McIntyre at Clash of the Castle Scotland, screws him as coming in as a, well, technically special guest referee, but not really, kicking Drew in the dick, and then Drew loses to Damian Priest. Is it the right move? Is it the wrong move? We're going to be discussing that early doors in this video and giving our full review of WWE Clash at the Castle Scotland. Of course, as some of the main headlines, Isla Dawn and Alba Fyre winning the Women's Tag Team Championships. We've got Cody Rhodes actually retains his Undisputed WWE Championship in an I Quit match against AJ Styles. We don't deserve Chelsea Green. She's amazing. But Bayley defeats Piper Niven to retain the championship. And of course, Sami Zayn retains the Intercontinental Championship against Chad Gable. But all in all, NXT was with me. Welcome to the show. And well, did WWE get this right? It seems to be a big talking point amongst everybody. Drew McIntyre, should he have won?
Yes and no. I mean, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And it's brave of them to pull the trigger and have him not win for a second time, especially in Scotland. And it was, I mean, I really wish I'd said this on my predictions, because I honestly thought that of the three Scottish acts, only the tag team titles were going to win. I didn't honestly think Piper was going to win, and I didn't think Drew was going to win. But unfortunately, I did what we both do most of the time. We go with our hearts instead of our heads. But it's brave. Someone asked me, they was like, how can you redeem this? Like, they said the UK fans keep getting screwed over, and how do you redeem it? And the only way I could sort of think of it was like, well, we've had a pay-per-view in Wales, we've had a pay-per-view in Scotland. Everyone's crying out for a show at Wembley. I think if we got one at Wembley and Drew finally does it then, I think it kind of builds to it there. And it kind of it's almost like the Cody Rhodes story and how like he didn't win the year before, wins this year. I think there's an ultimate payoff to come with Drew McIntyre. It's just getting to that point.
Yeah, I can see your point of view, obviously, because it plays into the storyline narrative as well, because every time there's a clash in the castle, we seem to get behind Drew McIntyre, and he seems to not get the job done, regardless of whether it's his own fault or not. Both times, it's not been his fault. But at the same time, I'm going to say this was the right result. If you look storyline-wise, look, we went with hearts of heads on the predictions, but we said immediately after the predictions, why did we do that? We're on camera. We got carried away, and then we both said we both think Priest is winning. We both still think CM Punk is going to cost him. It's exactly what happened because it makes sense in the storyline. That's the thing, because if Drew McIntyre wins here, then Drew McIntyre goes on to take on Gunther at SummerSlam, when you've been building the CM Punk match for a long time. Like before WrestleMania, it's been building for the best part of 8 months. It'll probably be by the time we get to SummerSlam. So this is the right move. Punk here gets revenge after the Royal Rumble, obviously being cost the opportunity to go to a WrestleMania. Punk arguably already got revenge at WrestleMania, you could say, with the Money in the Bank cash in for Priest to win the title to begin with. But look, this is a feud that's going to continue and going to roll on, and it's the money feud, because for those that are in attendance, you feel sorry for them, because obviously you want to see the hometown hero win the championship in his hometown and his home country. But at the same time, everyone in that arena is going to say, God, I apart from the 4 or 5 people that were clapping CM Punk and hugging him at ringside as the show was going off air, but the rest of them, I'm pretty sure, want to see Drew kick his ass, pretty much is the way that's going to be going forward. But for the rest of us watching, that kind of neutral, we want to see that match more. So that's what the game was from this. And as you mentioned, Gunther's got the title shot at SummerSlam. And what do you do if McIntyre's in that spot? It becomes a bit of a weird place. So for me, this is the right decision of what they've done all the way around. So for me, I'm quite happy with the way they've gone about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you as well. I imagine Gunther is winning that title at SummerSlam. It's what they've been building him to, and then it just gives Priest 2 more months to have a more credible run as champion, because I think dropping it would have been silly. One, for the lineage of the championship, just because you imagine we've come off that long run with Seth. Drew has it for 5 minutes. Priest's run is kind of, it's not the best at the minute. I mean, he still obviously can't retain the championship by himself, so that's ultimately one story beat there. But there's a bigger story there with Judgment Day anyway. But I think, getting to SummerSlam, Gunther's going to be the one that eventually takes that championship off of him. The Punk-Drew match it's just a match that doesn't need a championship at this point, and it's something that they can come back to. Like I said a little while ago, Drew winning a title in his home turf is something they can do at a later date. It's not like he's going anywhere. He's just signed a new contract. He's going to be there for the next 3, 4, 5 years, however long his contract is. I'm sure at some point in the future they will do another show in the UK and he will probably get another opportunity there because that's just how it is. But yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it sucks. But then again, I suppose they know how I felt when I was at Cardiff. So yeah, you can't argue it really. It was the right decision for me as well.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, my little one's woken up very early into the stream. Must have heard the sound of my voice. Probably not happy that Drew lost either, if I'm honest, by the sound of the crying. So I'm going to have to go and fix that for a couple of seconds. But just while I disappear for a second, what is your thoughts then of what Damian Priest's title run's been so far and needs to be moving forward?
Oh, Damian Priest's run. I think his run is just eventually something that I don't know. I think the breakup of the Judgment Day is the more important story to come out of this. And yeah, he needs something, whether it's another match at Money in the Bank, whatever. He needs a credible win just to make his championship run just look half entertaining. Do you know what I mean? Just half respectable, half decent. Like, it sucks that he's essentially on the same wavelength as Roman Reigns is, like that he can't retain the championship by himself. But I can see that at this point, Priest is really beginning to turn almost face-like with the fact that he keeps turning around and saying that this championship, I don't need the Judgment Day to defend it. It's my championship. And the fact that he's had the last 2 or 3 matches and he's always had interference to help him retain it. It's, I suppose, irritating that they don't really acknowledge that he's had help in retaining this championship. Maybe that's a story beat that they're going to come to in the next couple of weeks. Maybe whatever's leading up to Money in the Bank. But yeah, it's just, I said, he needs to do something. He needs a big convincing win over someone or multiple people. I don't know. Maybe give him a multi-man match at Money in the Bank where he has to defend against 2 or 3 opponents. Maybe a Punk, maybe put Drew in there as triple threat, maybe for a 4th in there. Just give him the opportunity to win the title off of his own. Even then, with that, I suppose that would probably be a lot harder to do as well, convincingly, because as we saw off last night, with the women's tag team titles match, you can do minimal amount of work and still win a championship. So I don't know. Like I said, I think he just needs something credible to add to his name, because at the minute he's on Roman Reigns territory for retaining titles, but he's not on Roman Reigns' title level. So I don't know. It'd be fun to see. But otherwise, yeah, I imagine maybe they're going to plan on doing Finn versus Priest. I don't know. Like the way that story is just going at the minute just seems to be a bit of a weird one. I mean, yeah, who knows? I mean, I'm just going to go to some of the comments here while I was waiting for Steve to come up. Eric Douglas, hey Bailey, I just want to know. Hey Bailey, just want to know. Hey Bailey, I just want to know. Hey Bailey, I just want to know. Will you be my girl? Yeah, Bailey was our girl last night. That was a very conflicting interest as well with that one. Like Piper being the fan favorite, but Bailey being the favorite is a really weird dynamic. Sorry, I went into the comments while you was out of the room there.
Unfortunately, sometimes that's what happens when we do this stuff live. Had this been pre-recorded, we could have took a break. We come back on a break. Unfortunately, sometimes things kick in. But you know, I'm back here now, and no, I mean the thing is, ultimately, it's good to go into the comments. Just say very quickly. Obviously, we've answered the idea of when Drew could win it for real. I think another UK show potentially some point late in the year as well could be the case there.
I said this, that the fact that they haven't announced SummerSlam next year. And Michael Cole still seems to be hinting that SummerSlam is going to be a big deal next year. I wouldn't be against them putting SummerSlam in UK next year, especially with the fact that they want to move it on the calendar scale. And then if you do Drew winning at SummerSlam in Wembley, in London, not obviously home turf, but home nation, do you know what I mean? I think that, and he's got, 80,000 people there. Like, they had the decibel counter on the show last night, which I thought was a great thing to add. And imagine if they had that same thing for Wembley next year, if he was to win a world title in front of a 80,000 capacity.
Yeah, it would be amazing to do something like that. And I got to say, I did like the decibel thing kicking in as well. I suppose, especially after France, that's something that they really wanted to bring in and stuff. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, obviously, we're going to just a couple more comments and then we'll go back into more of it. But yeah, obviously, Pierre loving the Cody Rhodes chant happening in the States there. Also, at SummerSlam, he's going to become the World Heavyweight Champion. That's where that potentially could happen. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. But yeah, I mean, going into what happens with the match, though, obviously, let's talk about the match itself between Damian Priest retaining the championship, and I can give a bit more my 2 cents. I missed a lot of what you said there about what goes on with Priest next, but obviously Priest gets himself hurt very early on in the match. Obviously, there'd been a bit of an issue with the ropes that had been going on throughout the evening. Obviously, he goes to do a dive over the top. He gets his leg caught through the rope. Nasty looking spot. And obviously, commentary made very early mention he could injure his ankle or his leg or something like that. And it seemed like, he couldn't get out of the ropes for a long time. Drew did a couple of shots in just to get a pop from the crowd, obviously. And eventually we did manage to get Damian out. What were your thoughts? Because obviously Damian was hobbling around for the rest of the match. Obviously, power to him from able to pull through.
I mean, yeah, props to him for pulling through it, getting on with the rest of the match. But as much as it sucked to see a botch, for me, it actually added a lot more intrigue to it because I was expecting, obviously, head says Priest is retaining, but you throw that into the mix and it's kind of like, whoa, are they going to do an audible here? How badly injured is Priest if he's injured at all, or is this just some great selling? By the looks of it, I'd imagine he really did get injured because that already is the best seller I've ever seen do that. But it was a case of, we've seen it before where they've had to make audibles on the call and on the fly, and you look at the fact that Priest was, like I said, most of us thought Priest was going to retain. It's the logical run. But if you had that injury factor in there, and there's a chance that, Priest might drop the title here because he's injured. He obviously he owns the only one that knows his body, so he knows if he's not going to be able to defend it or not. So, it just added a bit more intensity for me for that match.
I always say the same, to be honest. I mean, sometimes, we can say the word botch, obviously. Moments that happen that are not planned is something what I prefer to say, because obviously a botch is just like, it's terrible.
High-risk errors.
Exactly. It's a high-risk error. It's something that's tried that some wrestlers wouldn't necessarily need to try or whatever, but he's trying to do something spectacular. It's the main event of the show. It's gone a little bit wrong. But ultimately, there was a moment where it made me believe as well more that he definitely was hurt, because it felt like he was going to the top rope, and obviously Drew McIntyre was sort of meeting him up there, but it was just a place that Drew could be in a position so he could hit the razor's edge. And I wondered, is that another moment again that showed that he was too injured to carry Drew?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I mean. Like, it's either it's really good selling or it's like a legitimate injury. Like, dude, props to Drew, man, just for the way that he carried on, with the way that he just gave Priest a couple of kicks while he was tied up in the rope, and the way he got back in the ring and he was like, I can't win the match, I can't win the title with him tied up like this. It was almost like the real saving grace to this accident. But yeah, I mean, Priest was just an absolute star for it. Like, he powers through that whole match, and you could see he was still pulling off offensive moves that requires him to use both his legs. And that's it. Just honestly, props to him, because I think Priest gets a lot of bad criticism for some of his in-ring ability, which is unfairly just. And I think he proved a point to some people last night that even injured, he's still determined. And I think that was a real saving grace for Priest last night. It really gave him, I think it gave a lot more credibility to a lot of people that probably don't rate him as a top-of-the-card superstar.
I don't have to agree with that. I think obviously to power through, to soldier through, and it's a 20-minute match as well, and this happens very early doors into. We're talking like the first few minutes of the match, so the fact he powers through and carries on as well, and at times he uses that leg as well as part of the offense. You can see the pain that he's in afterwards when he does so as well, with the roundhouse kicks and stuff. So very well put together and very well executed from him, and the fact that he managed to carry on was amazing. But Drew managed to hit a Futures Up DDT for a 2 count. Obviously, we mentioned about the Razor's Edge, which also was a 2 count attempt. Drew then claymores Priest through the barricade on the outside. We see then Drew go for a claymore in the ring, but he's caught by Priest and is hit with his South of Heaven chokeslam. Again, only a 2 count. Big pop from the Scottish crowd. Priest then does a hurricanrana from the top rope to Drew. Drew actually gets up immediately, hits a claymore. It's a 2 count from this point. This is when the ref gets out of position because he sort of goes to like the ring apron because he doesn't want to get caught in the corner, but instead he gets knocked off of the apron into the barricade. We see Drew hit another claymore, and that's when we see another referee come down, but he stops at the 2 count. Of course, we've mentioned it already, is CM Punk, of course, dressed in the referee's outfit. Thought it was a nice touch. We knew CM Punk would cost Drew McIntyre, but at the same time, to do it the ref's outfit, I thought was a nice little way to be done. The fact as well, kick Drew straight in the balls as well. We see then the South of Heaven chokes them again, and Priest obviously wins with the original referee doing the 3 count. And overall, I thought that, like you said, it added to the match. I thought it was decent overall, but Wade Barrett's commentary was very interesting as the show was going off there, pretty much suggesting CM Punk should be fired. Yeah, it was interesting because, not being funny, there's screw jobs every week in WWE. What makes this different?
I don't know. I suppose, when you're, do you know what I mean? I suppose it's national. It's like UK versus US. It's that old fashioned war. Like Jonesy said to me, he Drew is very much treated like Bret Hart in like 97. Like, you take him to Canada, he's a national hero. Take him back to USA, he's a heel. And it's kind of what Drew is like at the minute. And like Wade Barrett, obviously being English from, I believe, Manchester, or somewhere like that. Do you know what I mean? It's obviously, although he's English and Drew's Scottish, like it's like the Olympics, really. You bundle us together, we all represent under one flag. And I can only imagine that there's some sort of story to come out of this. I mean, a lot of people have speculated that maybe Wade goes on to be his manager. I mean, dude, I'm all for that. I personally want to see Wade back in the ring. Not probably likely, but you know what I mean. If we get more Wade Barrett on TV, some more bad news Barrett, CM Punk, I've got some bad news. Do you know what I mean? I'd be well up for that.
I mean, I wouldn't be against it, but I'd have some bad news. I mean, Wade's on SmackDown, obviously. I'd have to find a way to get up to Raw where Drew is, and I don't see where it follows up. That's just my personal thing. I think it's kind of like for those that are golf fans. I'm not a golf fan, but I'm aware of the Ryder Cup. You get together when it comes to that moment, don't you? It's like Europe versus the USA, and I think it's just that case of like, as was said before the match, Wade Barrett even said it. If Drew wins, he's British. If he loses, he's Scottish. So I think that's pretty much where you see how we look at it from our side of the water as well.
The only other thing I can think is that it's probably going to play more into the, I presume, CM Punk turning heel factor. Maybe, like, I've read that people will reckon that this could play into the reason why he was released 10 years ago. Like the way Wade was wording it and saying stuff and saying like he's a cancer and stuff. It's almost like they're trying to relive the reason why he was let go in the first place.
I mean, to be fair, that'd be a fascinating story because we are getting near, I think, where the match is going to take place, which happens to be at SummerSlam. And if that's going to be the case, then obviously, I think it'd be awesome to really dig into that and to play into that sort of idea because we don't know any of that stuff. It's been kept from us, and Drew has been holding it dear to him. But as said, there's reasoning of his hatred for CM Punk, and it goes very deep. So to bring and open sort of those old wounds, I think would really add even more depth to this story, which I think has been a great story up to now.
Yeah, it would, but then my whole problem is that Drew's meant to be a heel, so I don't know. It's kind of like you're trying to make CM Punk a super heel, like a heel that is elevated above other heels. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of really weird, and like I'm sure there's some story that will play off in the future. It's just kind of weird how they're doing it. Like unless they're trying to do like turning Drew face again off of this. I don't know. It's going to be weird, but I thought they were going back to the Scottish psychopath thing with Drew. Like he was meant to be turned back to this like angered person that can never get things done. But if you're trying to make Punk a heel, it's like how's that dynamic going to work?
Absolutely, and this is why for me this is the right decision as well. What they've done here because. There are more questions than answers. And the thing is, you now have to tune in to see what's going to go to next because we've got Money in the Bank to go through, but obviously we think the ultimate destination is going to be SummerSlam. But watch this space, I think, is what we'll say for that. But final thoughts of Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight title on the star rating, please.
Dude, God, I said this to you before we started. Like my match ratings were kind of all over the place. I mean, crowd were fantastic. For what happened in the match, thought it was fantastic. The result was fantastic. So I can't give it 5. I think 5's a bit outrageous. I'm going to go like 4.25. I thought, like it was really good. The botch, obviously, ultimately is a botch at the end of the day, although it did play into the story really well. But yeah, like I really enjoyed it, man. I don't really have a lot of bad things to say about it. Like even the botch, although it is a botch, still worked in this match.
It did work, and I think, hopefully it worked well enough that Damian's not going to relinquish the title on Raw, but he's got through it, hopefully. He certainly retained the championship. He walked out of there without any issue, so fingers crossed he will be all right. For me, to give a star rating, I think we'll go for 3.5, personally. I thought that it was a good match. It was solid. I think it did everything that was there. It did everything I expected it to do, and to be honest, obviously, because we talked about the main event first before we talk about the rest of the show, I think once I'd seen that Isla Dawn and Alba Fyre won the women's tag team titles, my first instance was Drew's not winning, because this is where the championship changes happen and someone from Scotland's won the title. So just initially, I believed less that Drew was going to win from what I'd seen earlier in the evening. It was almost just the definitive. I think if no one had won the titles, I could have said, well, surely there's a chance maybe the throw a switch and then Drew wins it, but that is to be the case. But all in all, I think it was very well done. I would agree with Eric Douglas as well. He says that I like that they didn't show Punk until the count. He was done counting. I thought it was very well
executed. Cinematography last night.
Yeah. Brilliant the way that they did it. So fantastic stuff all around. But that's our thoughts there with Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre, and personally why it was the right result. So we'll have to rewind a little bit. Thanks to everyone that's joined us, by the way. We're 20 minutes into the stream. It's been a bit of a roller coaster so far. I won't lie to you for this one, but if you enjoyed it so far, make sure the like button, share with a friend, subscribe as well. If you're on the Twitter side, X side, whatever you prefer to call it these days, jump over if you want to get into the comment section, get on the YouTube side. But if you are enjoying it, then make sure to hit the like and also retweet as well. Try and spread the word, spread the love around, and we'll give our thoughts for the other 4 matches that happened at Clash at the Castle Scotland, which includes the first match on the show, which was Cody Rhodes defeating AJ Styles to retain the Undisputed WWE Championship in an I Quit match, which I'm going to say had a lot of drama in this match. I've got to say, one thing that was a nice, refreshing start to this match, just seeing fighting backstage. I was like, I don't remember the last fight in WWE, just see go backstage. So I was like, that was quite cool and very fun visuals, especially the fact in the environment like in Scotland, because arenas, I don't know, just seem a bit different when you see them in Europe compared to being in the States. So everything feels the same when you're in the States backstage, where this was like little corridors and stuff like that. Just was a nice little touch for me.
Yeah, no, I could appreciate it as well. Like, this was such a weird match as well, but like you said, for the fact that they completely go into the crowd, like always a dodgy play, especially in Scotland. Like, that's probably the bravest move you'll ever see a wrestler take is take a wrestling match into a Scottish crowd, because that was like, it's borderline there crazy. But yeah, it just, I know what you mean. Like, you sit there and look at every backstage that you ever see on an American pay-per-view or an American TV version of Raw or SmackDown. They do kind of look, it's like playing the video game and you're doing a backstage segment in the video game, and this just generic repeat, copy and paste. But the presentation, obviously, from how our arenas are built is really weird to see. Like I said, that first corridor they hit, there's literally about 4 or 5 foot wide, and you're trying to get 2 wrestlers, a camera crew, do you know what I mean? Just the referee all down that one corridor, and still air it to show on the big screen on TV. It was well, like I said, well constructed. I'm not going to complain. I thought, like I said, cinematography for this pay-per-view was just on point. Like I didn't see a lot of flaws as well last night with any point from what I can remember of anything. Like, normally there's an occasional slip up with how it's presented, like as if Dunn, like, what was his name? Kevin Dunn. Is it Kevin Dunn?
Yeah, Kevin Dunn, indeed.
Yeah, as if Kevin Dunn was still in charge and we'd still get stupid moments like that. But no, it was just well orchestrated last night.
Yeah, I thought it was well put together in the way it was done as well. And it just, I don't know, it gives that hardcore element as well. I think it's a nice way to start a lot of these shows. A lot of Triple H PLEs have this sort of hardcore environment. We remember Backlash in France where it was like the KO and Randy Orton Bloodline one was turned to a street fight just on the fly. And all of a sudden it just gets everyone off on the right foot. Nice bit of tone, nice bit of energy that's thrown in for this crowd as well. And it's a big time match anyway with the championship being on the line. It's an I Quit match. So here you know that you're going to get a bit of fun with it with all the toys coming out. But obviously, and I get back to the ring, Cody gets his his figure four leg lock on AJ. Of course, AJ does get to the rope, which breaks the hold, which is a bit weird, but he doesn't say I quit, so we'll move on anyway. But AJ then does a Death Valley driver on the table on the outside and a brain buster as well, which I thought was a really sort of brutal looking spot also. AJ then bounces Cody's head off the ring bell table and it busts Cody open. And we start to see AJ argue with Cody's mum at ringside, which of course she's there. What else are they going to do? They're going to argue with her at ringside. That's just going to be the way they're going to book it. But AJ gets Cody in the position for a Styles Clash on the steps, but Cody reverses to a backdrop, sending AJ to the floor. AJ then wraps a chair around Cody's head and then actually lands a knee drop as well. Cody actually saying no when he's asked if he will quit. We then see AJ beat Cody with a kendo stick repeatedly, gets Cody to look at his mother and asked to quit. Of course, he was saying no, he's not going to do it in front of his mum, is he? AJ then whips Cody with his belt. Reminder of the final boss, anybody with The Rock? Don't know, just a hunch I got. Styles then puts the STF.
In fact, he gets it from the ref as well.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, of course. We'll mention that detail. Styles puts the STF, which changes then to a crossface. We see Cody pass out. But of course, the ref says, well, the match still continues because Cody hasn't said I quit. He needs to say I quit for this to end. So, yeah, AJ kind of need to wake him back up. So, Wade Barrett loses his water at ringside. And of course, that's when the water's thrown on him. Continues to attack with a kendo stick as well after he's handcuffed by AJ Styles. AJ then confronts Cody's mum and she slaps him 3 times, not once, not twice, but 3 times a slap. AJ then gets a chain around his forearm. It looks like he's going to try and do the phenomenal forearm from the outside, but Cody, from having the handcuffs behind him, manages to get them around to the front. Throws a steel chair at AJ, so AJ lands on the top rope, and then the springboard of the top rope sends him off the apron and through a table on the floor, which, not gonna lie, was a really fun looking spot. Really enjoyed that. Cody then hits AJ with handcuffs as he manages to free himself. Cody hits a Cody cutter, then goes for 3 crossroads, with the third one being on a steel chair. Then he handcuffs AJ Styles to the ring rope, and that's when Cody starts hitting multiple chair shots to AJ. AJ refuses to quit. But then, of course, he gets the steel stairs, and that's when AJ quits because he's like, I don't want to be hit with those steel steps. Cody looks at his mum, and his mum kind of goes, hit him anyways. So he whacks him one with the steel steps. What were your thoughts with Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles? We can go with the aftermath at a later point.
Just a very fun opener. I mean, the way when Cody got busted open and we got to the end of the match, and I was kind of like, I was sitting there and hoping for that to be a bigger moment than what it was. Like, I'm expecting like Austin Brett levels here whenever someone's gets busted open and it plays a key part. Maybe it did. It was the reason why Cody passes out. I don't know, but that was probably my one niche to this match. Like, I just thought that could, and obviously it causes a slight error with the belt because obviously his head's covered in blood and the belt just slips straight off, and the crowd are quite happy to remind AJ that he messed up with that one. But yeah, just a fun little opener. Like, I think Cody's been an opener for a few pay-per-views now, and it's kind of like this is exactly what you need, especially in front of like these European crowds. They just love this kind of stuff, and the fact that it goes crazy. Cody pulls out a table, which is obviously the instant. It saves the crowd saying we want tables because he's just instantly gone for something that the crowd want. It's just a crowd-pleasing opening match, man. I thought it was just really entertaining.
Yeah, I thought it was a very entertaining opening match, and like you say, it's pleasing. It's something that's out there for everyone, and I do think there's a slight case of where you could argue it's overbooked. Obviously, Cody's mum's at ringside, and I don't know if that's necessarily needed. AJ seems to take his eye off the ball quite a bit in this match, obviously, where he could be focusing on Cody Rhodes rather than actually his mum at ringside. But still, they've made a bit of fun with what's going on, and obviously the OC were nowhere to be seen in this match. AJ Styles did do it on his own, which was interesting as well. I was surprised not to see them play a part in the match in any way, shape, or form. But all in all, I've got to say it was fun. I mean, especially when Cody's handcuffed. Like, when you see stuff like that, it's kind of like, well, I always believed Cody was going to win. I said on the previous show, it's like Cody's your top babyface, and you're building him to be your next Cena, your next whoever, and it's like he ain't going to quit. That's not what they do. He instantly loses everything about him that's top babyface if he says the words "I quit." So Cody's winning, but you do get the slight moment of doubt when it's like, well, how is he getting out of the handcuffs? It's like moments like that where you just have those little seeds of doubt. And I like the fact that this had a real story that played throughout like the near 28 minutes that these two really grappled it up. And to be honest, I think this is possibly a candidate for what could be match of the night.
Yeah, I can see your points. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's the silly nichey little things, like I said before, with the blood, and then the fact that you leave the keys to the handcuffs in the bag. Like, what kind of a rookie mistake is that? Don't get me wrong. I thought it was great, but it's I found it funny more than anything else. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's a third match out of this. I think purely on the basis that because Cody passed out, and AJ should have technically won in any other match stipulation. I think that's the reason why we get a third out of this at some point. Don't know when, because obviously AJ's going on to Noah. I think at the minute he's going to go wrestle for them in Japan at some point in the near future. I sent you the image earlier. I can't remember when it is, but yeah, I think that's their get out of jail card, and we get a trilogy out of this, which I'd be more than fine to see.
I think it'd be a SmackDown if it's going to be the case, but we'll discuss why in a couple of moments' time. But obviously, all in all, just a fun time, this one. I think that's pretty much the best way to put this match. And, Cody and AJ tore it out in France. I mean, I think Meltzer gave it a 5-star match. I mean, I wouldn't say this one was 5-star, but I would say that this one is, I'd say this is a comfortable 4 for me.
I went with a 3.5. I really enjoyed it. I just no disrespect, I just enjoyed other matches on the card, I think, a lot more tonight than what this was.
I think that's fair. To be fair, though, we move on then after the match, and obviously Cody Rhodes is celebrating, obviously, just before he's about to go to the back, and he looks to his side and sees a Solo Sikoa come out of nowhere, looking at Cody, and all of a sudden we see Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa as well make the attack on Cody, so it's 3-on-1, but not too long until the save is made by Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, obviously sending the heels, the bloodline, to the back, perhaps putting Cody's direction quite clear, and I've seen Byron's comment coming in. I've had to wait patiently to bring up, suggesting Cody versus Solo at Money in the Bank. I think it's the 6-man tag team match happening at Money in the Bank, and I think that on the tail end of that, it could lead to Cody versus Solo Sikoa at SummerSlam. However, if I was a betting man, and I'm not, but if I was a betting man, I have a feeling that Cody's going to be the ingredient that finally gives Randy Orton and KO that win over the bloodline, so they can sort of have to go back to the drawing board a little bit. Are they pleasing enough so that, you start putting the question marks, does Roman need to come back and fix this, where Solo there could be more an outrage on the SmackDown side if they lose that 6-man tag team match. But at the same time, Randy Orton obviously will be teaming with Cody Rhodes again, a legacy reunion. Could that lead then to a Viper heel turn after Money in the Bank that could lead to Cody versus Randy at SummerSlam? That's something I would suggest. But I think the 6-man tag is the destination for Money in the Bank. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd pretty much go with that. I mean, I'm not being funny. You don't have to turn Randy heel at this point. I mean, Randy can just simply ask for a match and probably get it. And there's probably enough story there. I mean, at an early guess at fantasy booking, you do the 6-man tag. The bloodline loses, and if you were going to turn Randy heel, maybe he RKOs Cody after the match, just to sort of give a narrative direction of where they're going to go for SummerSlam, and then obviously that leads on to how we get to that match. But yeah, I mean, I don't really want to see Randy turn heel, which is it's just something that he's always done. I kind of like how Randy is at the minute, and he's a real fan favorite, and I think I'd just rather not see it, if I'm honest.
Well, that's fair. I mean, the thing is as well, there is always the destination of, say, the Bloodline win that 6-man tag team match, and that puts Solo in position for Cody at SummerSlam. And we were talking about the Bloodline Civil War, a Roman Reigns return. Not sure when it's going to be, but it could be at SummerSlam itself. There could be some drama and fireworks with Cody versus Solo, could it not?
Yeah, I mean, again, this all depends on what they're planning on doing with Roman. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, again, if the Bloodline were to win, this kind of then sets up that there's it's just impressive that we've got to that point where they're setting up a 6-man tag match, and it's going to kind of play out in 2 completely different story arcs to where you go to SummerSlam. So it'll be interesting to see what they do at Money in the Bank and which one they're going to decide to pull the trigger on. I mean, Randy's always a match they can do at any time. Solo, I suppose they could do if their intentions are to bring Roman back, to bring Rock back. I don't know, but again, it's going to be fun seeing that happen at Money in the Bank and thereafter.
Absolutely. And the thing is what makes this great storytelling is because Cody right now doesn't have a natural next feud on SmackDown on that roster, I would argue. I don't think there's a clear person that stands out that could go against Cody next. So it makes sense to want to put him in the 6-man tag team match just for the meantime. It finishes that up. And like you say, then someone in that pack is going to be the next challenger. Could even be Kevin Owens, but you would assume it's probably going to be Randy or Solo. We'll have to wait and see which one it's going to be. But certainly fascinating, a little bit of storytelling just to finish off that segment. So looking forward to it. But Byron is saying that Dave Meltzer is reporting Cody Rhodes versus Solo at Money in the Bank. Maybe reporting it, but we're speculating different.
Change.
I mean, Meltzer reports, we predict. We're not going to predict the same all the time. And, you know, Meltzer's not always right either. And I wouldn't claim that we're right all the time either. Probably not even half of the time.
I was about the next match, though.
You were like the only person that I know predicted this result. Alba Fyre Isla Dawn defeating Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, the women's tag team champions, as well as Shayna Baszler and Zoey Stark, to win the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships in a triple threat match. Now, just to pretty much go through a quick bit of story of this match. So first off, actually, it's a question, actually. They did something a bit different to what I've seen for a long time in WWE when it comes to tag team triple threat matches. 3 people in the ring at the same time rather than one tag team sitting on the outside. For me, I've always been more of preference of this in tag team triple threat matches. And seeing the thumbs up from you feels you feel the same.
Absolutely, man. Like, even when they stated it at the start, my first note I put is they have used the decent way of doing a triple threat tag team match. Either do tornado style where everyone's in at the same time, or you put one competitor of each in. It just makes more logical sense because I'm just so happy that that's the way they're going forward with this now. None of these stupid, one team sits out for 2 minutes. It just doesn't make sense because logically, why would you tag in that team? You wouldn't. So I'm very happy that this is how they're doing their triple threat tag team matches now. Completely. And I presume it'll be the same with any sort of multi-man, whether it be 4-way, 5-way, 6-way, like no 6-sided rings in WWE. But you know what I mean. As long as there's multi-mans, that's how they're going to do it from now on.
And I think it's the better way as well. You explained it perfectly of why it is the right way to go. And obviously, early doors, it felt like that no matter what's happened, Jade and Bianca were dominating the match. It felt like the other 4 ladies couldn't get involved. So Shayna kind of called a truce, said, let's all get together and take out Jade and Bianca. They did so. It felt quite early on. It was like a 4-on-1 on Jade on the outside. So then they could all turn their attention to Bianca, although it didn't last very long. Then obviously Shayna and Zoey turned on Alba and Isla. I like this. I love something. I mean, obviously the Scottish crowd were hot all night, but something I actually really liked about them during this match, and I noticed it early doors, was they had ranked everybody in this match of who they wanted to win in what order. It was obviously Alba Fyre and Isla Dawn were top pick because they're from Scotland. But it was like still a cheer for Bianca and Jade if they would hit Shayna or Zoey, but they would boo if they hit Alba or Isla. So it was kind of like, well, if our ones can't win, we'll happily cheer for Bianca and Jade as they're meant to be the faces. As long as Shayna and Zoey don't win, then we're unhappy. It's kind of like, I love the fact they had like a first, second, and third system going on through the crowd of that match.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, even the crowd likes it. It's very rare that we get something like a chant, like for instance, like Shayna scares me. Like, dude, it's nice to see Shayna actually getting some like backing from a crowd. Like, honestly, I'd have to say that this crowd is probably one of the top 3 crowds we've had in the Paul Levesque era. Like, they honestly were just on point all night. And like I said, they didn't. The way you put it was great. The fact that they had like a tier system for 3 teams, but even like Shayna getting some decent backing, and it wasn't even stupid shouting. It was like, it was almost menacing. Like, Shayna genuinely scares me. It's like, that's how you're supposed to be booking Shayna Baszler. So I loved it, man.
Yeah, same. Absolutely loved it as well. But unfortunately, this match does take a bit of a turn. But I'm not going to be as harsh as what I've seen some people on social media. I think some of it's been a bit unfair, if I'm going to be honest. There was a hot tag made, obviously. Bianca was taking a lot of the work in the ring, and obviously she managed to tag and get Jade in. Jade attempts to do a springboard into the ring, but slips off the top rope to go in. And obviously from that moment onwards, I personally, this comes down to opinion, but this is what I think. I think Jade tries to overcompensate for that one mistake. And I think a couple of other things happened. It's not been her, it just wasn't her night, if you know what I mean, for the rest of the match. Like, not everything was connecting the way that it should do. There was a moment where she was in a form of the Caracluda clutch from Shayna Baszler, and it looked like that she was tapping. I'm not sure she was tapping. The commentary team did ask, is she tapping out? But obviously they said the ref didn't see it. I don't know if that's meant to be storyline purposes, because that can be a storyline thing. There was a legitimate claim that Shayna could say, we won that match and we actually beat Jade Cargill as well, but it wasn't seen, so we should be still in line for a title shot. So there is something where that can be played for storyline purposes. It can also be a fact that it was just done by mistake, but they may have to work into it or quietly forget it ever happened. But if we get to the finish anyway, obviously Bianca and Jade hit their double team finisher, but then just as Jade's going to go for the pinfall on Shayna Baszler, Isla Dawn comes in, hits a German suplex on Jade, and then actually pins Shayna Baszler for the win, which, let's be honest, I think surprised everybody in there, but at the same time was amazing to see. And I popped at home because I genuinely didn't think that result was going to happen, but was thoroughly happy that it did.
Yeah, I'm the same, man. Like, dude, we've all probably had that happen to us once in our lives where we botch something, and for the next 5-10 minutes, your brain just starts going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and you're trying to redeem yourself, overcompensate. Just generally, like, I'm sure we've all played a sport before where, I don't know, someone, like, you've let a player get away from you or something, and you're like, oh no, like, someone scores a goal or scores a point or a touchdown or whatever sport you're doing, and your brain just goes, oh, that shouldn't have happened, I did something wrong. And everyone's done that. And again, I'm not going to be harsh on Jade for her. Jade has been phenomenal the whole time she's been in there, and it's just one of them things that unfortunately happens, that it just plays with your head and messes it up so much that she suffered. And she'll recover. I'm not being funny. They treat her like $1 million. She's still, like, I'm not going to say she's green or she's new to wrestling, but she's almost like, I suppose, still getting used to the WWE way and being in front of, I don't know, just like being in front of these size crowd. Because I don't even know. I can't think of I'm not going to think of a reason or excuse. I just think it's just one of them things that inevitably happened. Just move, like I said, just leave it there, move on, carry on with yourself. And like I said, we got new champions out of it. I mean, for up until that point, Stark and Alba Fyre were just making her look like $1 million. Like, she was just literally doing everything. But then once that happens, she still tries to be that dominant force, but again, I think there's one point she has one of them in a power bomb. She kicks another one and luckily falls over into the power bomb and still kind of gets away with it. But yeah, man, it's like, I'm not going to be as harsh either. I'm just going to say it's just one of the things that happens. She'll learn from it. Maybe she'll, like, there's people that have always done this stuff. Like AJ Styles has even said that he's no longer wants to do the phenomenal forearm because, like, he doesn't feel like he can pull it off as well anymore. So, yeah, man, it's just one of the things. Maybe she'll learn. She'll change her in-ring move setup and she'll carry on. But yeah, you always learn from your mistakes.
Probably on a different day, she does that move and it works. I mean, we mentioned Priest.
9 times out of 10 it works.
Slippery ropes. There might be something with the ropes on the night because Priest slips as well later on in the show. And the thing is, what we have to remember with Jade Cargill is, green is perhaps is not a polite term to make, but she's probably in the game for like 3 years. Some of the people that competed on this show have been competing for like over 20 years, some longer. I mean, AJ Styles have been competing since the 90s. So it's like, it's just a situation where Jade Cargill has had probably 70 matches in her career. 55 to 60 of them have been 2-minute squashes in AEW. She's had probably 10 matches that have probably gone over 10 minutes in her entire career. And a lot of them each time she's learning and developing, and like you said, the WWE style. She's looking to actually adapt and actually trying to improve her ring set, her mindset of everything she does each and every time she goes in the ring. So yeah, there will be occasions where something might slip or not work out the first set, because she's learning on the fly, she's learning on the job. Some of the wrestlers that were probably been competing for 20 years might have had moments like this, but on small indie shows that nobody's seen, and probably they get away with because they didn't see it. Jade Cargill was a star that's in the spotlight already. So it's just a situation of be patient. She'll get there. And I've seen a couple of comments suggesting that the team of Bianca and Jade doesn't work and it should break up. I personally think the complete opposite. I think that it actually it's been a great team up to this point. I think that it actually benefits Cargill, gives Belair something to do while she's not in the title scene as well. And I think you still build up these two probably when the title's back. I do feel this is like a moment for Alba Fyre Isla Dawn in Scotland. And I do feel that in a month or so, the titles might go back. And I think that Jade and Bianca will continue doing what they'll do until they can build up. And when they're ready to have, say, a WrestleMania match, for example, because I think it's a WrestleMania level match. But just to move it on to Alba Fyre very quickly. Incredible, because a horrible few weeks she's gone through. Obviously, we didn't want to mention on the previous shows. We wasn't aware of the information was brought in the comments in the previous show, so we thought it was a bit distasteful without knowing the information. Obviously, she lost her mum a few weeks ago. This is around the time she was brought onto TV to build onto this show. Difficult circumstances, but she's powered through, and now she's women's tag team champion. I mean, you know, much respect. So what can say, really? I'm very sorry for her loss, but wow, the fact that she's powered on through, it's inspiring.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like Kaylee Ray. Kaylee Ray is one of them people, like you said, she's been doing this for 10, 15 years at this point, and it's kind of like she's been trying to get to this point her whole career. And it's like, I know it's obviously the hardest thing in the world to lose a parent, so I can't imagine what she's going through. I'm lucky at this minute, touch wood, that both my parents are still alive, so I haven't had to go through that. I can imagine, though, it probably does suck. And for you to sit there and go out in front of a crowd of 16, 17,000 people that are your people because you're from there and achieve something that not a lot of people get to do is probably a great thing for her. And like I say, it more than anything, I think it's probably a confidence booster in a time where she probably needs it most. Because you can obviously sit there and dwell on things that happen in your life, but for them to put them tag team titles on them, give them a half decent run as tag team champions, I think will do the world for her mental health, let alone, do you know what I mean, just her career in general. So props to WWE, man, because like I said, dude, I mean, I was about to say with Jade, like, if this had been under Vince McMahon, Jade would have probably been buried now beyond future doubt and, like, would be squashed and never seen again in WWE after that era. But it's a different time, and it's like Paul Levesque, Triple H just knows how to treat people like they're human beings. And so, like I said, this is going to do wonders for her physical, mental health, which is the most important thing. So, yeah, like I said, it's just great to see that she's got something to celebrate and something positive to look forward to going forward for the foreseeable future.
Absolutely, and very well said as well, indeed. And I really hope Alba Fyre Isla Dawn actually get used more on TV, and I hope they have a decent run. I know I said a few minutes ago I expect the titles to go back in a not too long distant future, but I hope they get a bit of a run. I hope they get more time on TV because they are two talented performers. I enjoy the tandem that they are together. They've not really had a good crack on SmackDown or Raw up to this point, but now the women's tag team champions, so fingers crossed they will get a bit of a showing moving forward. But what would be your star rating for the tag team match here?
I was quite generous with this, and I went with a 3. I think the moment, like aside from obviously the backstage stuff with Alba Fyre, I just thought the moment in general was nice. Obviously, getting the prediction right was always a great call anyway. The Scottish superstars winning tag team titles in front of their crowd was great. Like, I'm not going to be too harsh, like you said, on Jade, so I went with the 3 on this. I thought it was really good. I didn't mind it. I didn't think Jade came off too bad after the botch. So yeah, I went with the 3.
That's fair. I've gone for 2.5 myself. I thought that this was above TV quality. Thought it was a bit unfortunate for the last few minutes, but I enjoyed the story of the tag team match, and I like the way that the triple threat tag team match was executed. I think this is how all multi-team matches should be done moving forward. Like you said, if it's a 4-way, there should be 4 people in there. It just makes much more sense to do it that way. So absolutely 100% agree indeed. Thanks everyone for your comments so far. Hope you enjoyed the video. We'll try and get through some of the comments we've not mentioned as we get towards the latter part of the video. We're trying to keep things based on the review for the minute, and because we've seen Money in the Bank stuff in there as well. But also, if you're on the YouTube side, hit the like button, helps with the algorithm stuff. Share with a friend, subscribe if you're new as well. Close to 2,400 subscribers. And if you're on the X side, if you want to get involved on the video with some comments, then feel free to hop over onto the YouTube side. But of course, always very helpful just to like the video and retweet it as well. It does help this channel a long way. Just branching out just a little bit further every 1 helps. Believe it or not, it really does make a difference. But we'll move on in the meantime, and we're going to be talking about, the Intercontinental Championship match. Sami Zayn defeating Chad Gable with Otis and Maxxine Durpi at ringside to retain the championship. I've gone for more story than anything else in this match because, I mean, to be fair, the first 15 minutes or so of this match, in my opinion, is a technical masterclass. And this match, for the first 15 minutes before the drama stuff then, reminded me of every classic Intercontinental Championship match that I fell in love with as a child. And I do not care if people think I'm overstating this, but it reminded me of watching Bret Hart Mr. Perfect. It reminded me of watching, I don't know, a Chris Benoit Kurt Angle match. It reminded me of all those matches that I used to love that used to have the IC title involved.
The fact that you turned around and said to me, as soon as you watched the match, I didn't even take notes. It was that good. That just shows how good this match was. Like, I struggled to take notes because it was that good. Like, I'm obviously made some keynotes, but dude, this match is phenomenal. Like, I absolutely love this. The wrestling is the best. The storytelling is the best. Like, I'm so looking for, like, as soon as I found out Chad Gable had re-signed, like from during the day, I was like, oh my God, I can actually just sit back and enjoy this now because I know Chad's going to be here on Monday and there's going to be more of a story to it. And my God, this was fantastic. I absolutely love this. I totally agree. Just like the reason why I love the Intercontinental Championship is because you get these kinds of matches. Just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it was sensational. Just the slick movement between moves that was done between these two was incredible. Like you say, just the touch of knowing Chad Gable would re-sign just was that extra bit of ingredient that we needed as well to know, like, amazing stuff. So shout out to Gorilla Position, who got that scoop, by the way. Saw their little short that was going around online as well. So fantastic to get that. And thank you, Silk, for sending it to me as well. But yeah, obviously just getting into the meat and the bone, really, the storytelling part of the match, the bit we'll probably be talking about, which we recapped on Raw and stuff afterwards. Chad wanted Maxxine to use the IC title on Sami Zayn while the ref is distracted. Because Maxxine refused to do so. Chad getting upset with her corner to get up into the apron. She's standing in the corner. He's telling her off. Sami goes for the haluva kick on Chad at this point, but Chad moves. Narrowly, though, that kick misses Maxxine as well. So Sami's a little bit worried that he would have caught her. At this point, leaves the open door for Chad Gable to hit his Chaos Theory. But of course, it's a long 2 count. Looked like it should have been a 3 for me, but it was a long 2 count. Sami does kick out. Then Chad does tell off Maxxine again on the floor, but Otis then gets in between them. He's had enough. He stares Gable down, but he pushes Gable out of the way when Sami does a dive over the top rope and takes the fall for Chad Gable. Otis, when will you learn? Well, the fight goes to the floor. Chad gets an ankle lock on Sami Zayn as he's hanging onto the barricade. He's dragged onto the floor. Sami rolls, and then Chad goes straight into Maxxine's bad leg. Of course, she's got the protective boot on at this moment. That's where we see Otis getting upset. Otis looking like he's going to defend Chad Gable, but that's when Maxxine's like, no, it's Chad. And that's the point when then we see Otis actually pick up Maxxine and walk out on Chad Gable. Of course, Chad then watching them walk away. He's leaning towards the corner. He's vulnerable. Falls into line to haluva kick. Beautiful storytelling. Fantastic masterclass of a match between these two. Sami says this is over. I don't believe him.
Dude, that facial expression, I was trying to find the best image of that facial expression that Chad Gable pulls after that match, because that was the most disgusting evil look I've seen in a long time. That guy is on the brink of snapping, and I cannot wait for it. I mean, I'm not even so much bothered by the fact that he's probably going to get a new stable with the Creed brothers, and like it's going to be Team Angle 2.0 kind of thing. Dude, Chad Gable just looks like he's about to just absolutely lose it. And I want to see a vicious Chad Gable. Like, there's a single-arm German suplex in this match. I think, is it Sami that does it to Chad? That's absolutely disgusting, and he lands on the crown of his head. And I was like, audibly, my kids were seeing her at the time, watching it with me, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, it was just unreal. And I think if you make Chad Gable just start doing vicious, like almost take Sami Zayn to Suplex City, but a Chad Gable style Suplex City. Oh, man, I cannot wait for this guy to absolutely destroy Sami Zayn.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly the same watching that. You just know with Chad, like now, the Alpha Academy is going to be done. This is the next play on Raw. We're going to finish that off. Chad's going to need to say, look, I've had these people, these wasters in my corner for every match here. They can't take instruction. They've not done it right. I'm better doing this on my own. I can beat you, Sami Zayn. He's going to have to prove himself to get one more match with Sami. He'll get the position. We've said it for a little while. Money in the Bank's in Canada. It's in Toronto. Sami lose the title in Canada. I think that's the play they're going to do. And like you said, Chad will go for the 1-on-1 match, and that's when the Creeds come in. That's when Ivy comes in, and that's where we've got the new Team Gable. And like you say, this Gable for me, I feel the sky is the limit for this guy. I'm really excited to see what Gable could do next.
Would it be crazy to just suggest that maybe Chad wins Money in the Bank and purposely cashes in on Sami?
Wouldn't be against it. Normally, I'd be against
Imagine
that.
it. Imagine you put Sami and Chad in that ladder match. Chad wins it and then cashes it in instantly to take that IC title off of him in Toronto. Oh, you're looking at some major heel heat. But yeah, like, it probably won't happen. But like, I'm just fantasy booking at this point. But yeah, totally, man. I'm so looking forward to what we get. I mean, dude, the fact that the Scottish crowd was sitting there and you're a shit Kurt Angle, and I was like, that's really harsh. That's really harsh because he's not a shit Kurt Angle. He's actually really, really good. And yeah, I just, dude, man, like it was just phenomenal. Like I love this so much, and I just cannot wait for Chad Gable to be IC champion. Justice for Chad Gable.
Justice for Chad Gable and justice for this match, because I know we've talked about other matches a lot longer than we're going to talk about this one, but the thing is though, this is probably the first match I'm going to go back and watch again when it comes to it.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say like 4.5 at least minimum stars for this match.
I had the exact same thing, 4.5 stars for me. I think this is great, fantastic.
It's a gem, I think is the best way to put it. Absolute gem of a match.
It's one of them ones that will go. It'll be like in the plethora of great IC title matches that we've seen over the years. It would just be one of them ones that is added to that alumni. It's just so good.
Absolutely. If you've not seen it, I definitely recommend you go and check it out. And obviously, it'll be the last match we'll talk about then, because obviously we talked about the main event, but Bayley does defeat Piper Niven with Chelsea Green to retain the WWE Women's Championship. We don't deserve Chelsea Green. She's so amazing. Chelsea Green gets her hand stamped on by Bayley, and she gets upset with the referee. And usually we see the referee spot where the manager's kicked out. She wants Bayley kicked out from ringside, which is never going to happen in a million years. Of course, she gets a bit handsy as well with Charles Robinson trying to get him to tell him what to do, and he pretty much tells her to go away for the big pop from the crowd. But yeah, brilliant stuff indeed. Bayley later on in the match hits a Bayley to belly off the second rope, which looks like that's going to get a pinfall victory. That's when we see Chelsea make a return to the ring, or someone in a mask that's just dressed like Chelsea Green. We don't know for sure. Sorry,
Reclusa, Chelsea Green's Lucha Underground name. Makes her WWE debut. That was the first thing I thought was Reclusa makes WWE debut.
I'm so glad we got a Lucha Underground mention on this stream. That's just made my night. But yeah, I mean, absolutely brilliant to see. But it's not fooling anybody, and literally, yeah, it stops the moment for the pinfall. But obviously, Piper Niven hits like the Piper Driver for a 2 count, and then obviously. It looked like that was quite a brutal spot as well, because Bayley's head looks like it hits the canvas as well. But then Bayley hits a crucifix driver eventually and gets the roll up to get the pinfall over Piper Niven to retain her WWE Women's Championship. All in all, for this match, I thought it was great to see Piper get this opportunity. I thought the match is solid. I think the Chelsea Green stuff in there, you could argue, is distracting from the performance of the match itself. But I've got to say that for me, I'm a big fan of what Chelsea Green does. So for me, it just enhances the stuff for me.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I have actually a lot of love for how this finishes, because that crucifix driver and the way Bayley pins Piper, I think it was so good. It was actually a convincing way for a larger athlete to be pinned, and I had a lot of respect for that. I thought it was just a great finish in general. And Piper Niven almost has like a Samoa Joe style moveset. Like a lot of the stuff that she's doing, like the body sentons and all this kind of stuff, gives me like essence of Samoa Joe. And yeah, it was just good to see Piper finally getting a rub. I mean, I know obviously it was a bit obvious with it being in Scotland, but hey, hopefully this can lead on to bigger and better things. It was probably the most obvious match of the night that we knew Bayley was going to retain, but
yeah, just like I said, the crowd were great. The fact that they're so conflicting, it's like we love Piper, but she's the heel. But we love Bailey, and she's the face, and it's kind of like, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like it was just great, and I thought it was a well put on match. Chelsea Green's obviously fantastic as usual, and I just thoroughly enjoyed this. Like I said, I think the finisher for me just elevated it a lot more because it was just such a good way to finish that match.
I like the comparison to Samoa Joe with Piper and Niven with a moveset, and obviously I hope that this continues Piper into a good direction going towards Money in the Bank. Can you see, Piper Niven getting more opportunities now, or do you think she goes back into the background?
It's the problem is it's so hard to get into that main event scene. Like the fact that the minute you've just had Bianca and Jade Cargill as tag team champions because they're so stacked for top talent in the female division that I imagine Piper will get a run at some point. I don't see why not. I think Nia Jax is the prime example. If you look at Nia Jax is currently being booked, they're booking her perfectly now. And I think all it just needs is that little nudge for Piper, a storyline or something, and Piper can be up there in the echelons of where Nia Jax is, just a monster that can absolutely dominate and win the women's division. I'm sure at some point in the future she will win a women's single title, but it's just at the minute it's so hard to break in with the talent they've got.
I think it's very well worded because I kind of agree with you. I think it's difficult at this moment, but I hope Piper gets a spot in Money in the Bank, but I also hope Chelsea Green does as well because I kind of want to see Chelsea Green with the briefcase. But
absolutely same.
It would be amazing to see. But all in all, what would be your star rating for the match here, Bailey and Piper Niven?
I went with a 3.25. I thought it was it was better than what I'd rated the women's tag team match, but I thought the Cody AJ match was better. So I went down the middle with this 3.25.
It's fair. I went with a 2.75 for me. I thought it was a solid match between the two ladies. I think my only downside is I never believed Bailey was going to lose for a second. So every time there was the near falls, I didn't buy into them, sadly, unfortunately. But apologies for that. But that's pretty much all of us, all what we've said there with Clash of the Castle. So I suppose what we should do is we should go through the quick fire that we usually do throughout the ones. So your OMG moment of the night.
That single arm German suplex from Sami Zayn onto Chad Gable was disgusting.
It was disgusting. To be fair, I think it's definitely worthy of that position. My OMG moment of the night is going to be Damian Priest being caught in the ring rope. The fact that he managed to continue on from that, unbelievable from him. But for me, I was like genuinely worried if the dude was going to be able to continue. But fair play to him for being able to do so. Match of the night.
Silly question. Chad Gable, Sami Zayn, phenomenal.
It was phenomenal. Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable, definitely match of the night. Hard to really give for this one, but I'm going to go for it anyway. Entrance of the night for you.
Drew McIntyre, man, dude, the whole the bagpipes and everything. The fact they teased Broken Dreams again in the video package. Oh, curse you, WWE. But yeah, dude, Drew McIntyre for me.
It's the only choice, isn't it? It's the only real special entrance of the whole show. So, I mean, it was obviously going to get that one. MVP of the night.
Dude, I did have it down as the crowd, but I'm actually going to say Damian Priest. I think the fact that he recovered from that and he managed to still put on a 20-something minute match, Damian Priest gets my MVP of the night.
I think he deserves a lot of props. The crowd does as well, but I'm going to give it to Alba Fyre. Everything she's overcome, to have a magic moment there. I think Alba Fyre is definitely deserving of an MVP of the night. And then final rating out of 10 for WWE Clash at the Castle.
Do you know what? I'm going to be quite generous. I'm going to say a 9. I thoroughly enjoyed this show. I think the only problem was that some of the matches were predictable. I think it was the only letdown for me.
I think that it's a solid show. I had a fun time watching it from start to finish. I'm going to go for an 8. I think that all in all, I think there's at least 2, maybe 3 matches of this show that I would be in a hurry to watch again. I think that's always a good thing, especially when it's a 5-match show. It's a 3-hour show as well. I'm not going to complain with these ones when they're shorter. Like I'm much happy when I'm sitting there watching them. So, but yes, we're going to go into a couple of comments then just before we wrap things up. And I wanted to get to one comment in particular, booking like a mark here. Watching the whole show this morning, personally, I feel this is the weakest PLE all year. It proved Triple H is a weak booker and gets far too much credit. We've just actually given quite a bit of praise for this show. Would you say it's the weakest one of the year? Because WWE have been putting out some solid shows all year.
No, I think WrestleMania Night 1 is probably the weakest night of the year. Is it night 1? Night 2? Whichever one had. Night 1, I think, was WrestleMania was the weakest night of the year because it was so weird. It was just a weird show in general, night 1. I think a lot of the problem is the card was predictable. The fact that they have 4 Scottish superstars and you were kind of expecting all of them to get on the card is inevitable. But dude, Priest didn't win. I think that's quite a big shock. A lot of people, like we even said, heart over head. We all thought that Drew was going to win. It's just one of them things, and they didn't pull the trigger again. Tag team titles changing hands was a shock. Like a lot of people said, I was the one of the few that got it right. Most people said that they thought Jade and Bianca were going to retain. AJ and Cody have a killer match. I mean, I can't say it's really the worst. I just think that maybe just the card was predictable. I mean, it's kind of easy to book these shows when you have enough talent that's from the territory, I suppose.
Absolutely. And I think as well, I mean, perhaps it will go the divisive opinion of that main event as well. Some people are really unhappy that Drew didn't win.
Yeah, true.
Don't know the feelings of booking like a mock. If it was a Drew should have won, not right that Damian won. The fact that Punk's their involvement, maybe it's too predictable, maybe it's too obvious. I don't know. Like we said, the predictability is probably the only thing that maybe lets the show down from perhaps being a 10 in our opinion. But it's an interesting thought anyway to hear that and see that. Tomorrow is the White Six. Well, if you believe those all those QR codes and stuff, it looks like tomorrow is going to be the White Six. Be interested to see how they will come in. And shout out to Mike, put up this comment earlier on. He said solid pay-per-view, gives it an 8 out of 10. Best match for him was Cody versus AJ Styles. Worst was the women's triple threat. And Byron has given us here Dragon Lee versus Carlito is a Money in the Bank qualifying match on Raw. Interesting. Was not aware of that. Who would you fancy to get into Money in the Bank of those two? Perhaps Dragon Lee?
I don't know. Dragon Lee, because he's a high flyer, and obviously he's kind of gonna. I think he's going to be the Ricochet replacement for the time being in these multi-man matches, and he's going to do the high flying stuff. But I wouldn't be against Carlito because I think Carlito's got something to offer. So that's a hard one to call. But I'd say 55 in favor of Dragon Lee.
I think you could be onto something there because I mean Carlito, if he was to be Money in the Bank, if he was to win it, to build his thing of like, well, you're not part of the Judgment Day, but you are kind of part of the Judgment Day. It's like, would you cash in on Priest? You know, for me, either way, that's cool. I'm down with those two being in the qualifying matches, and we'll see how it's all going to play out. But yeah, I think that's pretty much us all wrapped up then for Clash at the Castle Scotland. So thank you everyone that's been watching this video. Make sure to hit the like button, share it with a friend, and subscribe as well if you're on the YouTube side. Close to 2,400 subscribers. So come on, just a few away. Just needs a few people to do that if you haven't already. And if you're on the Twitter side, X, whatever you want to call it, hop over to the YouTube side, and there's lots of videos as well that you can be checking out in the meantime, so including Money in the Bank ones. There's already 2 up on the channel, Money in the Bank related. And as well as that, if you're on X as well, you can always like what you're watching right now. You can retweet it as well. It just spreads this channel out a little bit and helps it in the world of so many wrestling podcasts. But we appreciate everyone getting involved. Look after yourselves and each other. Take care, and we'll see you for a live stream again on this channel again very, very soon. All the best.